With 6.8 million refugees fleeing their countries away from the horrors that have engulfed their home, the feeling of worry takes over their minds. The unknown is all that they can see, and it's being forced on them. Family, friends, homes, jobs, these are all left in hope for something better in the future. With all of these comes their story. There are so many examples from history, literature, the media that show these hardships from each and every one of them. Their stories are strong and show how much determination behind them, and they give insight to what it might be like to walk in their shoes. Some of the most dangerous aspects of leaving a country and entering foreign countries are the travel and living conditions, but it's the support of others around that gives one the strength to continue on. There are millions of stories to be told about the journey one takes to reach a safer place. They are running away from their homes in some of the worst conditions possible. For example, in the nonfiction book La Línea, when the scorching hot sun and dust storms made it impossible to cross the desert lands in between Mexico and America, Miguel and his little sister ran into many challenges along the way. They were forced to stop and cover themselves with a tarp when a huge dust storm blew over them. When they woke up, they were completely submerged under sand and had to dig their way back out to find everything had changed. It was incredibly hard for them to continue on and redirect their path to America quickly so they weren't caught by the authorities. Many refugees go through similar experiences like these. A big group of refugees are coming from Mexico to America, and it's very, very dangerous for them. But terrifying travel happens all over the world. Like Tarek from the non-fiction book A Land of Permanent Goodbyes, who has to travel across an entire ocean to get to somewhere safe with his new family. They could only afford really cheap life jackets that promised no saving. The water was violent and many times they thought they would just tip over and drown. But they had to continue on, even running from an official boat trying to stop them. The Syrian war is a very violent one that has no better tomorrow in sight. Tarek and the rest of his family had no other choice but to leave or they would be killed. Many are fleeing from these countries and putting their lives at risk each and every day. This was an outside source on a first-hand account of a woman forced to leave her country of China to South Korea. She went through extreme measures to be able to find safety for her and her unborn child. She said, "I had to hike up more mountains to get out of China. It was very difficult, being 8 months pregnant. My legs hurt and began to swell up a lot. It was really dark and I fell a few times. It was so hard. I was completely exhausted." This account was taken in 2017, and it's still happening today. China's communist government is too controlling and won't let people freely do what they want, and given the rights as human beings. So many risk their lives and the lives of the ones they love to reach places that will treat them with this respect and the rights they deserve. But unfortunately, life doesn't always become perfect when you reach the place you're headed to. In the nonfiction book Never Fall Down, Arn is blessed to be able to come to America with an American family. He finds America to be very different from Cambodia, where he fled from. While starting this new life, he starts to attend school. He was very optimistic about it, to be able to learn, as he didn't attend any school back home. But this is where he met some very rude students and rude people. He would be called names and people would hold out their ears and blow out their cheeks, mocking Arn that he looked like a monkey because he was different. They quickly learned that there are not very many people that were nice to him, that he didn't quite fit in with everyone. This is a very common situation with refugees, especially in America. People are very unequal to others who look different or act different than them. It's very wrong. We should be more welcoming to those in need, but that can be very troubling, and it's not very well known is the mental trauma that's brought with most of these refugees. This was an amazing story to read. This couple went through some of the worst travel to get to Turkey, and they were nowhere near treated right when they arrived. Their first-hand account of when they arrived in Turkey is saddening. It says, the couple tried to restart their life in Turkey. However, Sophia said that her husband couldn't find a job, and he was detained and mistreated multiple times by the Turkish police. For Afghans in Turkey, access to asylum and jobs has always proven a major challenge, and in recent years the government has started cracking down on Afghan asylum seekers. This treatment is far too common, and it happens all over the world, to those just peacefully seeking for somewhere to live safely. As a result of this treatment, they were forced to leave again, risking their lives and heading to the unknown. People from everywhere need to come together and make it possible and easier for them to find a new place to live safely. In the nonfiction book A Land of Permanent Goodbyes, an incredible American volunteer saves Tarek and his siblings is such a heroic story. She was brave, resilient. She saved so many lives coming off of those boats. She was such an amazing example of the thousands out there right now who make it possible for lives to change all the time. She gave the hope for individuals and families to continue on. She went against the social norms that stood up for what she wanted to be more helpful. People should be more aware and informed about these helpful organizations that can find refugees to help also. While doing my research for this topic, I came upon this foundation that does a lot for children who absolutely have nothing as they are refugees. Foundations and programs like these save thousands of lives all the time. The work they do is so caring, and they want to do the most for what they can do. It's called Save the Children, and it's helping by providing education and safe places for kids and improving the sanitation and health services for children. These children are our next generation who can change the world, and it's the help of those people who provide a second chance for this happy future. The world can partake and donate to any of these foundations, and it's the hard work that they provide that helps these people. There is an opposing view. Some people will argue that traveling between borders is not dangerous, that the life that they try and start up is all because of them and their choices, and that the world doesn't care. All of these statements are very false, and it is seen in many of the stories told in the media and in history. And there are so many factors that affect refugees today, like travel and the living conditions, that can be very real and very troubling. One example that proves that travel is very dangerous for refugees is a story told from a young woman escaping North Korea. She left her entire family not knowing when she would see them again. She writes, "I will never forget how cold it was at the river. I could feel the snow through my torn shoes and the wind blew through my thin jacket. I was shivering as I stood in the knee-deep snow, waiting for the chance to make my escape. I slid down the riverbank into the ice. I could hear the ice crackling as I crawled on my stomach across the frozen river." This story broke my heart as I read about her horrific experience traveling to China. She knew that she had to leave North Korea, and it was extremely dangerous, but she did. She knew that she could have a better life somewhere else, and she bravely did it on her own. This is just one of the thousands of examples and stories that are told about the travel that's fit for nobody. The perseverance and courage it took for these destinations to be reached is incredible and honestly totally life-changing. Another example, we can learn about how the living conditions of their destination is not always positive, is the explanation of the refugee camps in southern Lebanon, which is home to more than 1 million Syrians and 450,000 Palestinians. Says the oldest camps, once considered temporary, are home to third and fourth generation refugees. They are not tent camps, but dense spaces of concrete and asphalt. Urban materialization of an ongoing state and emergency. These are people who fled from their terrible living conditions from home, and they're treated almost the same when they arrive to the place that they thought would be better. These tight and overcrowded communities are what generations of families live in, and they have to put up for years and years. The article I read had a whole gallery of pictures of what it might look like if someone were to live there and go there right now. And they were heartbreaking pictures. These people deserve so much more for their troubles and nightmare experiences that they've had in their home countries that weren't even their fault, but they are welcomed to the bare minimum. Also, there are so many examples of communities and programs that are reaching out and helping refugees. I focused on one organization while researching, and it was amazing to learn about all the work that they do for these people. It says, Refugees International is committed to saving the lives and protecting the rights, dignity, and security of refugees and displaced people worldwide. Since 1979, Refugees International has used its independent advocacy to improve the way aid is delivered and to ensure the rights of all the displaced people are respected. This was such an impressive read, and they help thousands upon thousands of people all the time, every single day, just to have a little bit better of a life. They're the voice of those who don't have one. Refugees International is a global independent advocacy organization that successfully challenges governments, policymakers, and administrations to improve the lives of displaced people around the world. This is enough proof that there are good people out in the world who are trying to make a difference for those lives and those people who are displaced by worldly things. Refugees all over the world are living with no sight of a better future. They leave their country with the absolute bare minimum and hope that one day it will be better. They are the ones living without a map in their lives, and it really shows as they push through life with such uncertainty. Not knowing what will happen tomorrow or the day after weighs on their tired shoulders. There are too many factors that make it incredibly dangerous for individuals and families to make it somewhere safe. The extreme travel and future living conditions of their new home are just two of the very real in most refugee stories, but it is the hope and the help of others that make it possible for survival as they journey through these unfair trials.